Welcome to Dodo Modern Poets, first show of 2019 at this lovely venue. If you haven't been here before, just to let you know a little bit about the event, we're going to finish around 5 o'clock. There'll be a 20-minute interval somewhere in the middle, and there is a loo on this floor for give you added comfort here, of course. I've got a couple of other things I want to tell you about before I forget. On Saturday night, Dodo Modern Poets is doing an event at the No Passaran conference. There's leaflets on little chairs there, which is an all-day conference confronting the rise of the far right. Some tremendous speakers during the day if you want to register for the conference, including Diane Abbott and Ken Loach, Tarek Ali, Henry Wainwright. But if you just want to come for the evening's entertainment, that's fine, and that includes us, a play reading of Lampedusa, and some Kurdish music and song. So just turn up, it's free, or if you want to come for the day, register online. This afternoon we've got a couple of great featured poets. We welcome the return of Jenny Mitchell back at Dodo after giving suspended reading here last year, and the return of Graham Coxon, who hasn't been, sorry, Graham Buchan hasn't been with us for a while. Graham Coxon, of course, is still playing in Blur, as far as I know. So those are featured poets. We're going to have obviously open mic spots in both halves of the afternoon, and I'm going to kick off with a couple of poems. And the first poem is by Francis Wyatt, a poet who performed with us frequently over the years, and was in fact one of the poets on the first night we performed here at the King and Queen. And she died just before Christmas. So this is from her last collection, which is called Swiftscape, and it's called Red Hat Band. Dashing to work, taking a shortcut over Richmond Green, birdsong puts spring in my step. A gentleman catches my eye in cream trousers and Panama with a red band. He stops to view the listed buildings, domed theatre, Georgian terraces, magnolia-filled gardens, then leans on his stick to catch breath. Nearer now and clearer, his face is pale. No smile for me as he struggles to make progress on home ground, the morning stroll taxing his strength. I think of my father in his final months, wearing a checked cap for protection from the sun. This bright day, the man with the red hat band gives me pause. I'll stop rushing quite so fast to meet my deadlines. And this is a new poem from me. I wrote this after reading an extract from a book called The End of Ice, which of course is about the melting of the polar ice caps. It's called Ice. You're going to make us lonesome when you go, scared and warmer than we want. Penguins, seals and polar bears go first, left without a rink. Won't be long before you water. We can't splash our way out as waves sweep everything away and we swim over chimney tops. Breasting shoals of cartons, escape from old MacDonald. We can't rattle you in our scotch, pack peas and TV dinners in your embrace. A million distractions kept us sleepwalking through the years, deaf to the sound of you cracking up. Too late now, too late for our tears. Right, we've got several lovely open mic poets who are going to read. We're going to have a few now, and then the others in the second half, before the featured readers. And please limit your contribution to 2 poems, unless of course you're reading haiku, which is Christine, who gets a bit of leeway. I'd like to kick off with Max Fishel. Thank you. Hello everyone. Hello. What a
fantastic thing to do on a Wednesday afternoon, isn't it? It's brilliant, coming and doing this. My mum was a German Jewish immigrant to this country in 1947. She ended up living in Liverpool, which is where I was born and brought up. So this is just a short piece about that. There's a couple of place names that if you don't come from there you won't know. Smithdown Road, we lived in central Liverpool. It's a big main road leading right into the centre. So I used to live just off that, went to the centre all the time. And the Pier Head in Liverpool is the place where the ferries come and go across the Mersey. It's called I Was Never Beaten as a Child. I was never beaten as a child. Maybe that was because my father wasn't there most of the time. Away 4 nights, in for 3, just my mum and me, not speaking much at all, passing each other in the kitchen or the hall. The front room full of books about the Holocaust and concentration camps, of course. Naked skeletons in a pit were the companions I grew up with. She told me to be careful. Every time I left the house, the Nazis were out there in Liverpool 17, Smithdown Road leading to the gas chambers at the Pier Head. The number 5 bus, my own kinder transport to hell in her mind. The man and woman I called my parents fed and clothed me well enough. He made the money, she cleaned the house, I did my homework. They said I was a Jew, assumed I was a Jew, as far as they knew. Thank you. And the second one is completely different. I've retired from a career in education in which the word test has a certain connotation. It's always the same. And I thought I'd apply that connotation to the idea of a blood test. Doctor said you need to rest and also get a blood test. So off I went to phlebotomy, where they were really nice to me and said, we will speak openly. We're going to test your blood. They stuck a needle in my vein. I hoped it wouldn't be in vain and actually do some good. And so I was phlebotomised, but then imagine my surprise when there, before my very eyes, as I lay rigid on my bed, I saw my blood all dark and red. I wondered, was I dead? But then a voice behind me said, OK, we have your vital fluid. We're going to test it. Let's get to it. They next gave me a shot of scotch, propped me up a notch so I could watch them test my blood on their machine, all shiny, sterile, super clean. I felt a surge of adrenaline as they plugged it in. Oh, and it came to life, began to hum, beat, blink, maybe even think, until out popped the first question. The doctor read it out. When was the Battle of Hastings? He asked my blood, not wasting a second. As the second question appeared, it was as I feared. My blood would surely fail this test. 20 questions and the rest would seal its fate until it was too late. I was plunged into a state of mental and emotional paralysis caused by the total lack of chemical analysis, renal dialysis or basic electrolysis. But one thing they had clearly missed. I'm quite a good ventriloquist, and so could make my voice appear to come from the bag of blood just here. With every answer dead on cue, my confidence just grew and grew until we finished question 20, my tank of knowledge almost empty. The staff let out a mighty cheer. My blood had passed its test and I was free to go. But no. Not without my blood itself. This was, in fact, the National Health, and they had pledged to do no harm. So, put my blood back in my arm, I told them, most assertively. They did, with some alacrity, until I was complete again, the red stuff coursing through each vein, heart, kidneys, lungs and duodenum sprang to life. You should have seen them pumping, thumping, platelets clumping, all the little mitochondria cured me of my hypochondria. So now at last my mind's at rest. My blood is fine. It passed its test. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much, Max Fishel. Okay, we're going to invite a new reader, a new Dodo that is, anyway, to come up next. Please give a big Dodo welcome to Rosemary Norman.
Hello. This poem is called I Hen, and it's a sort of taking for a walk the Song of the Battery Hen by Edwin Brock. And when John Lucas did this book for me, he said, "Oh, I'm so glad people are still reading Edwin Brock." And when I wrote this, I just assumed everybody learned this poem in school, and everybody who knew daffodils knew the Song of the Battery Hen. But clearly John didn't think so. It's got this. It's called I Hen, and it's got the line at the top from the Song of the Battery Hen: "I am the one who sounds loudest in my head." I Hen. Oh, the racket of me, the cacophony, the choir of auburn-feathered, yellow-beaked tenants in my fluorescent white-walled head. Oh, my open beak open yellow, my yellow beak open, sounding the I am, the I sounding its loudest loudness. Oh, the loud-headed and beaked choir of me, auburn hen me, sounding my loud at these soft mirrors of me. I sound of them. This is another strange one. It's called When I Came Back. And a friend of mine who writes poetry but also does some playwriting wrote a piece at the turn of the millennium called Missing the Millennium, because she'd read a very interesting item that said that whenever Jesus was born, it most certainly was not the year zero, because none of the historical support tie in with it. So it was a bit. I think it was a bit earlier. I mean, I can't. She did know the details of how it tied into historical events. And this is imagining coming back and finding your date of birth isn't what you thought it was. When I came back. When I came back, it was all changed, even my date of birth. It has to do with prophecy, so I understand, but don't ask how it happened, came about, was made to be, contrary to what we know of time as lived and history as record, or memory as remembered. I'll become troubled then, asking aloud whether my date of death can shift, and other people's, to before our own births, gone in one single overwhelming readjustment. Or put off, with no false account of the causes and effects of resurrection, but our undoings undone.
Thank you, that was Rosemary Norman, new to Dodo. So just before we move on, one thing I forgot to mention is that the lovely landlord who lets us have this room, lets us have it for nothing. He does ask us to rattle the bucket from Macmillan's nurses, and in the last year the pub has actually raised £20,500 for Macmillan nurses, not just from our readings, I hasten to add, but from all the functions they have here. So if you have any spare change, we'd be grateful if you could help out there. So that's that. And moving on now, we have a haiku specialist who's been here before and amazed us with insight into this lovely form of poetry. Please welcome Christine Eales.
So as you all know, with haiku, they're so short, you need to read them twice, otherwise you don't really grab it. And that is traditional, as we know. But I'm not doing the tinkling bell at the end to make it very zen, because I don't think I'm very zen in these particular haiku. So I thought I'd start with the Christmas one, because I've left over. And in the haiku journals, I do a big section in winter. They're kind of a season behind, because you don't write about the season in front, do you? You're in the season, you enjoy it. Poinsettia withers in the hall, children's voices. Poinsettia withers in the hall, children's voices. Eating my way through the cheese board, 3 glasses of wine. Eating my way through the cheese board, 3 glasses of wine. Sonnets turn into haiku, the flavour of Japan. Sonnets turn into haiku, the flavour of Japan. Man in the moon dines alone, a slice of cheese. Man in the moon dines alone, slice of cheese. Now this last one, I want you to really listen, because I'm going to ask you to do a quick vote, because the last line has got 3 options, and I know what I like best, but everybody else keeps choosing one of the others, which is very annoying. So, seeing the world through a dragonfly's wing. And then the last line options are a pond, falling rainbows, and more wings. So I'll read the first 2 lines again. Seeing the world through a dragonfly's wing. Who likes a pond?
Can I make a suggestion that you read it again with the last line, like so, yeah?
Okay,
So
yeah.
we can hear how it sounds complete.
What? Okay.
Yeah?
Seeing the world through a dragonfly's wing. A pond. Does anybody like that one? Oh, thanks. Seeing the world through a dragonfly's wing. Falling rainbows. And then the last one. Seeing the world through a dragonfly's wing. More wings.
No, I like the second one.
Yeah. So it's either you go for beautiful. Yeah. It's either if you feel like being, it's what your mood is, isn't it? Either you want to go for falling rainbows because it's beautiful and pretty, or you want to be cryptic and say more wings. So I'm oscillating. Thank you very much for your help, and that's it.
Okay.
Have them all and have different
Thank you,
instruments.
Christine. We'll have a workshop, all of those afterwards. Okay. Our last open mic poet before we move on to our featured poets this afternoon is a man who was a featured poet here fairly recently, and of course we always love hearing from John Hurley.
Nobody should look back. This is called Never Look Back. The oceans washed away my footprints, those small traces in the sand. The years have smoothed all the traces of time spent in my native land. But still there's longing and nostalgia, a need to journey back once more, ignoring change and seeking answers. I walk again on the foreshore. White-crested waves, perpetual motion, pink drift blossom on sand dunes. I stand and gaze across the water at my old home that's now in ruins. Loneliness rises up within me, like water in a leaky boat, as I confront mortality. Youthful joys are now remote. Despondency racked with emotion, salty tears, thoughts running wild. Then born on an evening zephyr, I hear the laughter of a child. This is a lunch in Covent Garden, which most of you have had in the open air, I take it. On my own I dine al fresco and watch the people just for fun, teeming life in this great city now beneath the blazing sun. It feels like a production, all the actors on a stage, yet some are in a bubble and have no wish to engage. Like the young man with a pensive face, staring at his mobile phone, in his little private world, he sits there all alone. Four ladies chatter avidly in an unfamiliar tongue. One then laughs uproariously, red-faced and arms outflung. A man walks while he's texting. He seems so unaware. His thumbs tap out like drumsticks, eyes down without a care. And a lady with a white stick, who has not changed her course, she almost gets knocked over, and she never knew the source. Two young girls stand and natter, both wearing torn jeans. They clutch expensive iPods, though only in their teens. An old man totters slowly by as he grasps a walking frame, and his ancient dog beside him, and he's also lame. Then a well-dressed lady passes. High heels and nice perfume beats a rhythm on the pavement and lifts my inner gloom. Now the waiter wipes the table, gives his towel a little flap, puts on his most engaging smile, some tourist to entrap.
Thank you, open mic readers, and there'll be more readers from the floor in the second half. Now we move on.